The following video is a part of a two-part series discussing individuals with autism in the workplace. We hope you enjoy. According to a CDC study reported in 2017, an estimated 5,437,988 adults in America have autism. Of course, this is only an estimate. It doesn't factor in the adults undocumented or the public's growing awareness of ASD, which would only increase this number. But this will ultimately result in millions of adults with autism struggling to find employment. While normally people with autism receive disability, this funding isn't sufficient. This becomes a major problem when their main benefactors, or typically their parents or guardians, are no longer with them. The question of what will happen to their children once this becomes a reality is a major concern for these parents. Where will their children live? Who will love and look after them? And how will they receive financial resources to survive? Individuals with autism frequently benefit when they're young and go to school, or receive child services. But once they're adults, these services either don't provide to them anymore, or provide very minimally. Not only does this result in them stagnating, but worst case scenario, they decline and lose many of the skills they've accumulated, typically cutting themselves off socially. So not only are these adults unable to support themselves financially, but there are psychological effects as a result of the social avenues lost to them when these services are taken away from them. It's worth acknowledging that perceptions of what it means to be typical are social constructs, but businesses tend to favor these perceptions. Most businesses have a very stagnant structure that attempts to fit in as many people as possible, which doesn't work when trying to fit the broad spectrum of autism into the picture. This is especially important once you factor in how most people with autism need some accommodations in order to be successful. Of course, businesses have the option to not engage with these individuals and only hire, well, quote unquote, normal people, so they don't ever have to worry about making accommodations. And while it would work for the business, it would negatively affect individuals with autism who need and thrive in these work environments. Most professionals who work with individuals with autism agree that these type of social activities help them flourish, and there are negative consequences when they can't join them.
What everybody says, they wind up sitting in their basement playing video games, right? So when they don't have the opportunities after high school to move into something without going for their college degree, they wind up sitting, watching TV, playing video games, right?
And while I'm sure many of these businesses would question why they would need to implement these programs, especially considering it consumes time and resources, many of these individuals would benefit from this kind of support and wouldn't get as far without it.
Well, I've had autism for quite a while. The diagnosis was first given when I was quite young, and I really struggled with it in my early years. I would often talk to myself, have trouble focusing, and struggle to keep conversations.
This becomes more of an issue once you factor in the growing awareness of people with autism or any neurodivergent individual. It isn't as simple as now there's suddenly more of them. As we become more aware of what having autism means and the broad spectrum it encompasses, not only do we recognize how more people have autism than we once perceived, but also the social biases and prejudices that inform the choices to disregard them once they're older become more apparent.
There's a litany of research on children, but really once you turn 21, you kind of disappear, right? Because you're no longer in the school system. So people really haven't paid a whole lot of attention to adults and adult services. And so I really felt a desire to do something in that area. I mean, housing is terrible, employment is terrible, transportation, all of these things are segregative and serve to disenfranchise people and disallow them from participating in our community.
The kicker is it's not as though people with autism are just completely inefficient. Far from it, as a matter of fact.
There's a lot of high profile people have come out in recent years, say Daryl Hannah saying that they're autistic. And, it's again reflective of this culture of whiter awareness of autism and wider acceptance of autism. People have called Einstein autistic, Newton autistic, which, it's difficult to diagnose somebody retroactively, but it's, we think about in Temple Grandin, is an excellent example. So Temple Grandin is, I always say, the most famous autistic person that we have currently living in our world, at least in the States. And she has credited her autism for helping her design innovative solutions to cattle farming.
But because many of them don't get the services they might need simply because they become adults, there are harmful consequences to their quality of life, especially when the parent is gone and can no longer be the one to support them.
Helping the kids now find something meaningful for the future, right? And whether it's their parents helping them, their siblings helping them, to get them to move to the point where maybe the parents have to worry less about that, right? I don't know that it'll be that the parents would never worry again, right? That they would never, that burden would never go away. But at least if they knew that they had, that their children had people who truly cared for them, and that they had meaningful work to do.
They go back into their shell, cut off from society, cut off from friends, just staying in their room, staying in their homes, not going outside anymore. If they don't volunteer, if they don't find employment or get involved in social activities, they end up sitting at home. And all these individuals are obviously going to become adults one day. And when that happens, they will struggle to find employment.
So the question is, how do we solve this problem?
Our unique employment model is designed to bring the untapped neurodiverse talent pool into the workforce. So CAI manages not only the recruiting, the selection, and the hands-on training of the team members, but also the cultural integration, the on-the-job supervision, the skill development, and that ongoing performance management.
Join us in part 2, where we'll discuss numerous potential solutions to this problem.